Hey besties, welcome back to the Bestie Let's Talk podcast. I'm your host Ashley.
And I'm your host, Dominique.
And today we are back with episode number 6.
Yes, and it's called Surviving Daddy Issues. Ooh. And before we start, of course, we're going to introduce one of our best besties. She's a repeat guest yes. on our show.
Hey guys, it's Naya again. Miss Naya 365 on all platforms.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the besties.
For sure. Thank you, girl.
We're basically going to talk about the relationship we've had with our father and how it later influenced or had an effect on our relationship with other men.
Yeah. So I guess we can just, go right down the line here.
So just to give you an idea, my relationship with my father is somewhat complicated. My biological father wasn't around much when I was born. And let me just to put this out there, I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any kind of way.
Right.
At any point during this episode. So I want to put that out there. I love my biological father. We're now today, building a relationship and have, gotten really close. So I definitely love him very dearly. But I didn't grow up much having him around. I would go, for the weekends here and there, and sometimes during the summer. But now that I'm an adult and I look back, I realized that he wasn't really there for when it counted, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
There was a lot of birthdays that I didn't hear from him, and it really wasn't about the gifts. There was some years where he would, send me money and stuff, but as a kid, you expect your parents to be at your birthday parties or whatever, your birthday celebrations,
right.
And that wasn't necessarily something that I had with him. And then when I was 8 is when my mom met my then stepdad, and I talked a little bit in our last episode about how when I went through my divorce, it kind of triggered all of the past trauma I had experienced with men, specifically in relationships and with my dad, And during that process, I kind of realized, even though my stepdad was there in like physical form, there was just a lot of things that I look back and realize you don't, say to your child that you claim to love so much.
Right.
And I just think about, my kids, my kids too, and I'm just like, there's nothing they could ever do to make me talk to them crazy or put my hands on them, in a disrespectful way.
Right.
I'm not saying he did that. I'm just making it a point that you see a lot of, things and shit in the news about people abusing their kids and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But just to get back on track, I, again, going through the process of my divorce, it triggered a lot of things for me. And the main one being, I'm like, wow, there was a lot of manipulation and narcissism. And, just to fast forward, that kind of ended up being what I attracted in men. And once I got older, I learned that there was a lot of times where he would tell me I was disrespectful, and really I was just, standing up for myself.
I got that too.
And once I got an adult and I kind of grew up a little bit, I realized that I'm a grown woman at this point. At the time, I think I was 30 years old. I'm 30 years old. I'm going to voice my opinion. I'm going to stand up for myself.
Exactly.
Especially when I'm being blatantly disrespected. So he, to this day, will take me standing up for myself or really just disagreeing with whatever he's saying as disrespect. So I'll go a little bit more into detail about how it affected me later in relationships, but I'll give you ladies the opportunity to touch on your relationships.
Well, I mean, honestly, my relationship with my dad is kind of complicated too. My dad was there physically. He was around. My mom and my dad, they divorced when I was actually really young. And it's funny because I actually just found that out when I was looking through some old documents. I just had found, I think they divorced when I was like 3 or 4 or something like that. But they still kind of maintain some form of a relationship and commitment, if you will. I love my dad. Again, this is not to, we're not here in the sense of trashing our dads. That's not the purpose of this episode. We are here to tell our truth, speak on our experiences with our father and how we know to be true, how it correlates with, future, encounters with other men. So, Like I said, I love my dad, but you know, there were a lot of times where I would see him misuse women, and it would be to the point where I'm young, seeing, you know, other women around, and this is, we're a family, so I know that you're still with my mom, but why are these women around? And you know, I would, it's almost like the atmosphere was just kind of go with it, you know. And for the longest, that would kind of, I don't know, that would kind of, let me get myself, I don't know. I looked at my dad growing up. I looked at him because I was a daddy's girl. I was with my dad for the, you know, first few years of my life. I looked at him as this figure of, I don't know, of statue, you know. He's my dad. He loves my mom. He takes care of us. So, you know, that's all I knew. And now coming to speeding up to present day, finding out a lot of different things that happened in that time frame, it really kind of triggered some things in me, and I didn't realize it honestly until my dad was the only parent that was alive that, you know, I could actually come to with certain things, because now I'm growing up and I'm realizing that I'm experiencing things with guys and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. And when I look back over, I'm like, oh, you know, you're just like that. You know, this is something I'm used to. This is something that you've shown as an example for me. And, you know, I'm glad that I've done some work towards that, because not more often than none, I'm able to see that now and kind of, you know, make my own decisions on whether I want to entertain it or not. But it took me a while to, and actually I had to go through, you know, some things that I felt like I didn't have to go through if I didn't necessarily have those kind of.
You were put up on game.
Yeah, for sure.
And not even, and then here's the thing, like there were times where I felt like I was put up on game by my dad, but the example that he showed me, you know, the physical manifestation, contradicted it, you know. So I see more of you, you know, texting a multitude of women and entertaining a multitude of women versus, you know, you actually being faithful to my dad's had a few wives. No shade or anything like that, but you know, there is a common denominator here. And I don't know, I just, amongst other things, it's been a struggle to kind of maneuver through that. And I do see that it has definitely had a major impact on how I interact with men and what type of men I've attracted. I mean, of course, now it's, you know, but, you know, throughout the years, I can definitely account that had a major thing to do with it, for sure. And again, we'll go back into detail with how that affected us in relationships, but
my relationship with my father is complicated as well.
So we got some complications. It's okay.
My biological father was not in my life until my early 20s. I grew up with my mom got married to my sister's dad. Of course, they didn't have my sister at the time. It was just me. But when my sister came along, I feel like I knew my stepdad loved me, but I feel like he treated me different. I could tell, like, I'm his daughter too, but like small things, like he would bring her Reese's cups home after he been out all night and leave them up under her pillow. He wouldn't give me none. And you know, you as a child being mistreated, not that he was mistreating me, but just the small things that I noticed he was treating me different. But you know, as a child, you're kind of scared to speak up. Like it's hard to verbalize how you feel with adults as a child.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I said, it's taken as disrespect, but you don't even know what to say about how you feeling.
Absolutely. Right.
So fast forward to I met my biological father had been in prison. So when I finally got in touch with him after like 17 years, he introduced me to my brothers and sisters. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters. a niece and a nephew on my dad's side. And he introduced us. He got us together for the first time. It was the first time we were ever together. We've been together ever since. But after I got to know him, he's like a non-factor. Like he doesn't go out of his way to call me, to reach out to me, to check on me. I feel like, as you missed my whole life. Right. Like, I feel like now, if I come to you with anything, you should be stepping about me, and you're not. So I had to get that out of my mind. Like, he's just, that's the idea of a father being there and loving you and praising your accomplishments, and you just not gonna have that. Yeah. And that's sad.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when you look around and you see other women that have close relationships with their fathers. Absolutely. And then too, I feel like in my dating life, it makes me no nonsense. Yeah. Like, you gotta show me. Absolutely. You gotta say what you gonna do and say what you mean and mean what you say. Yeah. And if you don't, it's out of here, because I done been hurt too many times, and I gotta set them boundaries.
Exactly. No, I definitely understand that for sure. No, when it kind of brought up something like when my dad introduced me to my siblings, and one of my older sisters I was introduced to when I was 16, maybe 15, 14, and my more recent introduction was about a year ago. I found out that I had a sister, and she's 30. I'm 33. But it kind of that finding out the last time that I had a sister kind of triggered something in me, because like I said, I thought of my dad as this superhero. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't do any wrong, which I mean that And, and maybe that was, incorrect, and having that, outlandish expectation, but
you spoke that's
I feel like that's what you're
supposed to. You're supposed to be able to look up to your father.
You're supposed to.
You're supposed to be their role model.
And no, you're not going to be perfect, but there's just some things that, and when I found out about my sister, the dates and things kind of added up. So it kind of felt like, I'll be honest with you, it felt like I got cheated on. Yeah. I'm like, I'm connecting the dots. I'm like, and so it triggered, because now I'm thinking about all the things that you've said to me, and how now everything just seems like a lie.
It makes me personally look back, like that one time he disrespected me, and it was like some shit you can't come back from. Yeah. It made me look back and realize, I lost it. What were you gonna say?
I said that he.
It makes you look back and realize all those moments they tried to have, like a heart to heart, or some wise saying, or something.
Or to come down on you, because my dad was really like authoritative.
But it kind of makes all those moments kind of bullshit. Yeah. It's just like, in my experience, I truly, at the end of the day, I felt like I was just a condition, based on. He loved me conditionally based on him and my mom's relationship. Exactly. I felt like, now looking back, I felt like I was tolerated when I was loved. Yeah. So,
and that's crazy.
And that's,
Let me say, y'all know I was telling you that I felt like I was mistreated by my stepdad. Yeah. In my adulthood, we had a situation to where I told him about how I felt like he treated me as a child. Okay. And from that point forward, I guess he acknowledged, he thought about it. Yeah. And he acknowledged it. So from that point forward, our relationship has gotten better.
That's good.
He's there for me when I call, when I need him. Like, so.
That's good.
It's good to know that you can change if you want to make a change.
For sure. Yes. For sure.
And it's okay to voice your opinion.
It is.
As a wrong person.
For sure. And that does not equate to disrespect. Again, I similarly experience, when, and as a kid, and even as an adolescent, and, even in my young adulthood, I'm 33 now, but the only emotion that I could project to him was anger and hurt. And a lot of times when we would have conversation, it would end up in a screaming match, or me crying and cussing him out. And that's not even my character, but at a point you like yearn for you to just, or for your dad to just hear you.
Yeah.
Just hear you. Just hear.
Just listen.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I know what you saying. I know how you feeling. But just
acknowledge my feelings.
Acknowledge it.
That's really what it is. Acknowledge my feelings.
Acknowledge what I'm saying. You know,
step out of daddy mode.
Let's step
out.
I'm
a person.
Yes, you know, and you know, me and my dad are still working and still on our journey of, you know, our relationship. But I just remember a time where I would just exert myself emotionally, and I can even think back on times where I would do that. I had one guy that is crazy. We would stay up all night, and he had some, later on to come to find out, some mental health issues. But I would stay up, but it had to be some mental health issues with me too, because I would stay up with that nigga all fucking night till the sun came up, just speaking life into him, telling, bro, you are good, you can do this, you know, just whatever our conversations were. But like I said, I would emotionally and energetically just throw myself at him, you know, and I would do that same thing with my dad, and I would end up empty because not only was he not giving me, reciprocating anything, he couldn't, and my dad wasn't either. And later on, come to find out, you know, he couldn't either. But I definitely see a lot of times how the relationship that you have with your father does affect it. And you know, it wasn't honestly until recently that I realized that even in that though, you still have control. You know, because we
it takes a lot of work.
It does.
A lot of growth. And does. Before we even did this episode, I was trying to think to myself, what was the one thing or the one experience that made me, like, for one, heal from all of that, and two, do better when I'm, you know, choosing the men in my life.
Right. And
when it comes down to it, let me back up. I was in a 10-year relationship with someone that I now know is just like my stepfather. I'm just now realizing that he's just like that man. And I tolerated that for 10 years. And I really think it was COVID. That's why I call it a blessing and a curse, because I think COVID gave people the opportunity to really not only sit with themselves, but sit with the person, really know the person that you're with. I'm pretty sure the divorce rates spiked during COVID. And during that time, it was just like, just to sum it up,
looking at them.
Yes, just like, with them. All I really, my thought was, I really don't like you. I really don't like you.
Yeah.
And but again, I realized that he was just like my stepdad. He was very narcissistic, very manipulating, very disrespectful, and would think that because, you know, it's the next day and he's not mad anymore, that everything is cool. And that's what I grew up, you know, going through as well. But in that same moment of COVID, somehow, I can't remember the one thing. Kenya, my girl Kenya, Dolo White's wife.
You do.
I started following her on Instagram, and she, just to put it, what am I trying to say? Just to sum it up, she basically led me to my spiritual journey, and that's really when I started looking inside and realized the person I'm with is no longer serving me, and eventually that led to me having a stronger relationship with God. And that to me is the one thing that made the difference between, you know, there's a lot of women that have had messed up relationships with their father, or no relationship with the father, and I can meet them and they're the same age as me, and I could tell that they still haven't necessarily healed from that. But I'm thankful to God and to you, of course, because we've traveled lots of journeys together. But I would say that was the one thing that made the difference.
And it's so funny that you say that, because I knew you were gonna say that. I literally, before you were even saying that, I saw it coming out of your mouth. Because that honestly is truly 100%. And it's so recent. I would tell Ash, like, I be feeling like my body's on fire sometimes. Like, I be like, oh God, you be on me. And I'm so grateful for that because it took me asking God to, and I think I mentioned this in grief. I was like, well, God, my whole life I've been praying for my daddy. My whole life I've been praying for you to change him. Please, Lord, change his heart. Open up his heart. And I was like, if it's not in his season, in his moment, or in his journey to change, change me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Open me up to, the possibilities of, or open me up into, the person that, even if it doesn't pan out how it's supposed to, I know that because I'm close with not necessarily my physical grandfather, but my spiritual father be acting up for real, seriously, showing up for sure, and it took him coming in and showing me that it's something that I changed within myself. It's not only a decision, but a continuous decision that I choose. And it wasn't until I felt like I had that power to, one, have discernment on what type of men should and shouldn't be in my life,
right?
And two, just what in what time frame, because even that's important. And when you don't have that structure, or when you don't have that that being behind you that give you that kind of guidance, and if you will, I think it's imperative to get close with God, because he would literally help you get through that walk. TD Jake said the best, he will walk with you through that, literally. And it's an ongoing journey, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm still working on a relationship with my dad, but I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of growth with myself. I've seen a lot of growth with him as well. But more so of anything, I've seen a lot of growth with how I, respond and handle situations. And it's trickled over into, the men. I can account for like this. This is one situation. It's a new guy that I was called myself trying to talk to anyway. Went out on a date. Everything was cool for the month. I got a couple of vibes, but I was like, okay, maybe I'm just being too, it's been the first date in a minute, so maybe I'm just, But later on after the date, it just got really sexual really fast. Overly sexual. Yeah, it's okay though, it got horn dog-ish to me. And exactly like parched. And I just remember back to the old me, I would be still with the shit. I still be, because it's showing me some attention, entertaining it, and maybe because they don't get me wrong.
No, for real.
Yeah. Anyway, but I cut that off. I
nice like disrespect to yourself.
It felt like this. Now it feels like disrespect.
Sure.
And I just can't tolerate it anymore. Bottom line. And I think that I had to go through those situations. I had to see, what things shouldn't look like, in order to know what things should, and that's why I'm like a silver lining type person. Although my dad wasn't who I necessarily wanted him to be, he, in a sense, was who I needed him to be. And he was who he could give in that moment. And God still worked through him to show me, hey, this is not what you want. This is not what you want to do. I wish that I had that, relationship where, I can call my dad and tell him this and tell him that, or even get a "I love you" or "I'm proud of you."
I was just sitting here thinking one big piece about it, and I think that's in any relationship, is having accountability.
Yeah,
like that accountability really is more important than any apology, because when they can't even admit, and that's where the narcissism and the what's the word I'm looking for? Manipulation comes in, right? Where they're trying to flip it and make you think it's not what it really is.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that,
but no,
I did want to say too, like this is my first time at 33 years old. This is the longest I've been single. Since I was 19 years old, it was relationship.
Me too.
After relationship.
Me too.
After relationship. And I thought that I was truly in love.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
but most of the time it was love.
Every time.
I was yearning for that love that I was missing from my
your dad. Yep.
So.
Yep. Me
I was in a relationship with this, a situationship with this older guy for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And he put me up on game on a lot of stuff, like as far as getting my credit together, getting my life together, being a, credit scores, being a real grown up, but I feel like he was manipulative at the same.
Honestly, again, I'm glad that I went through certain things because now I am able to be like, oh, I know exactly what that is. Oh, my dad used to run that trick back in the day.
You know how they said God will send you the same person? The same person, just a different
exactly
body,
exactly.
face.
And I it used to, I think I back in the day used to tell you, I feel like I'm getting the same stuff over and over and over again. But until you, it's kind of like a game. Until you have completed that mission fully, you can't go to the next level.
No, for sure.
And I feel like, and like you were saying, this is as long as you've been single. This is the longest I've been single as well.
Yes, that was my point.
Yeah,
that was what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was dating this guy for 5 years. It was a situationship. It was where he put me up on game on a lot of stuff, helped me get my life together. But I just felt like it was like he never talked about us being together. It was always he. When he spoke about the future, it was never we. So at some point I had to separate myself because it's like we've been together all of these years, what are we doing? So I ended up breaking up with him, and so I have been single for a period of time, and I just feel like every grown woman needs to go through this period of being single.
It's an awakening.
It is. It's like you can sit with yourself and realize what you're not gonna go for, what you're going for, what you want, what you need out of a partner. Like people jump from relationship to relationship to relationship. Some people just can't be alone,
and that's a problem.
And that is a problem because you don't know yourself.
That was me.
You don't know what you want.
And it's funny because I used to hear my mom and like older ladies say, "Don't be worried about it, boys." And get yourself together.
This stuff with me, bitch. I'm gonna tell y'all, you gonna be in love 1,000 times.
Yes.
Before you meet the right man. That done stuck with me all my life because I done been in love 1,000 times.
I remember this is the one. 18, like I'm on the counter.
I knew it was the one. I don't know how many times. I lost
girl.
Oh my God.
So many frogs.
So many, man. So many.
Thanks for the practice, I guess.
But exactly. I was gonna say
you're welcome, actually.
Practice makes perfect.
But yeah.
So tell whatever bitch you with right now, she welcome now.
Right.
No, seriously.
No, seriously. Don't make me. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, this is the longest that I've been single, and like we were saying, it's an awakening. It's mandatory for women to take that journey by yourself.
Men too.
And yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
Be by yourself. Be alone.
Men and women. Yes,
I don't really think you can. And I can attest to this. I don't really think you can truly find yourself
while
you're always with somebody.
Because you gotta compromise.
Exactly.
When you're with someone, you have to compromise your feelings and what things that you would and wouldn't do. Because they will affect them.
Exactly.
Versus when you by yourself, you worried about self. You can think for yourself.
Right.
All of that. Yeah, you need to be with self.
Exactly. And it's a spiritual thing too.
For sure.
Isolation is, I feel like grounds for, that new chapter, that next stage, that elevation. Yeah. And, people, you can say what you want, but I don't think I felt this liberated ever in my adult, or date in that time frame where you do, date people or in relationships with people. But It's funny because I just had a conversation with my cousin about this. I was like, I think I'm ready today. She was like, no, you're not, girl. No, not yet.
Wait a second.
Wait a minute, because, I was like, I've been getting my spirit game together, my spirit team good, me and God, like, and she was like, okay, but we still got other things, what I'm saying? And she called it out to me. She was like, because you're not looking to really date around. Let's just be honest. You're looking for your husband at this point. She was like, and that's spiritual, and that, that takes time, and that takes you cultivating yourself. It takes a tremendous amount of self-love and courage to not only isolate yourself, but to get one with yourself. And it's important because I'm just speaking on women's terms, because as women, we have a wisdom inside of us that can penetrate.
Wisdom was a woman.
It can penetrate a lot of things, and with the right guidance, and of course being connected with your higher power, can be the beneficial key to to your family. Because that's what I'm looking to do. I'm not trying to play no game. We're not playing out here no more. You know what I'm saying? I'm 33. But
I want a nephew, so
yeah, and it's time to bring let's get it together. I ain't rushing, but I'm just saying we trying to get this thing popping. But
I'm gonna say this to end my piece.
Yeah.
One thing that my biological father did do that brought me a lot of healing and peace was I had went to visit them in Arizona, and I hadn't seen them in, I think it was like 8 years or something like that. It was a long time. Yeah. And at first I was a little bit nervous to go because I hadn't seen them in so long, and I just didn't know if it was going to be like awkward or anything like that. I never experienced that in the past, but that was probably the most amount of time I went without at least going for a weekend or something like that. But I remember getting there and like all those like anxious feelings and any feelings of anxiety just instantly going away. And I didn't realize how just the whole time I was there, we didn't do much. My sister had got married and we were just kind of doing things, doing gear for that. And we had to spend it on the family. And my little brother had a football game and he had asked me on the way home to ride with him, so I did. And before we went in the house, I can't remember how he started the conversation or how he moved into it, but he basically was telling me a little bit about, his childhood and, his relationship with his father and how he came up and stuff. And it wasn't in a way where he was trying to make an excuse why he wasn't there for me, but in a way that I would understand.
Right.
And that right there was just it meant so much to me. And that really helped with me, healing and being willing to like get closer to him. So
he laid it out on the line.
Yes,
he was vulnerable.
Absolutely,
and
that's a beautiful thing.
And I'm so glad that you got that, because that is something that I am still on the. I don't want to say the hunt for, but that's something that I'm still yearning for. There have been a lot of things done in the past that, some to just my mom that still affected me, some just specifically done to me. And my main thing is, can we get to a point where you can acknowledge that there was some pain there, and that accountability, acknowledge that you caused someone that pain there, and that's the thing. If we can do that, then we can start sowing seeds for it, But there is still a wall up there, that's more so of like, one, it shouldn't, affect you because it was your mom, or other excuses and reasonings that really honestly don't have anything to do with it, but a wall up in a sense that I can't get through to him to that. I can't get through to him to even get to the point where like even have a conversation about it. And all of my sisters, we've definitely been willing and try. We actually met, all of us met up for the first time maybe 2 years ago now in Chicago, and it was his family's event, so we're thinking he's gonna be there. Never showed up.
Wow.
He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to face all three.
And I get that. I 100% get that. I mean, you know, I get that you wasn't ready. Yeah, it sucks. I don't agree with it. But it just goes to show that there's still some growing left to do. But it also goes to show that the reason behind this episode is we're surviving daddy issues. We're not victimizing ourselves, or we're not victims of our situation, or even bashing anybody. We're telling our truth. These are things that happen to us, and these are things that we realize that happen to other girls, other women,
all over the world,
all over the world. And you hear all the time, "Oh, she got daddy issues," or "Oh, that's the daddy issue." You know what I'm saying? And it's like, at the end of the day, there are things and triggers and, you know, behaviors that coincide with that. And when you even think about it, when you're saying that, you're really highlighting another woman's trauma. You know, because that's really where that stems from. But I'm so glad that us as ladies, you know, we've gotten to a point where, one, we can talk about it. We can be vocal about it. We can express ourselves express ourselves when it pertains to that. And I don't know, I just think that's a beautiful thing, and I think that this conversation definitely needs to continue on.
Absolutely. We need a part 2.
I think we might
can dig a little deeper.
You know, we definitely can. I think that deserves another, you know, episode or 2. But we definitely want to hear you ladies, input, like, comment, subscribe. You know, kind of open up to us. We've been a little vulnerable here, giving y'all our, you know, stories and backgrounds. So we would love to hear from y'all. And who knows, maybe we can kind of give you some advice or some tips, you know, being that we have come to a point where, you know, it's, I think that's always going to be a journey, you know. I think that's always going to be something you work towards and work from or work through. But there are things and tasks that you can do that I feel like help you to get through that. So,
and I feel like I have to tell myself all the time that in spite of my circumstances, the things that I have been through, that you don't have to put those negative expectations on every situation. I always tell myself, I always want to keep a warm heart. I don't want to turn into a cold bitch.
Absolutely.
So I go out of my way to try not to let my circumstances get in the way of my future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just having that mindset is gonna, that's exactly what you're gonna attract. For sure.
And really, that I feel like makes us stronger women, opposed to women that haven't necessarily found that journey yet, and they're still kind of wearing their problems, you know, on their shoulders. So I think that makes us even stronger women.
Yes. Absolutely.
In everything.
In everything, I agree with that. Because I was telling them, we were talking. I know we were just about to go, but when we were talking. I was saying that all I had was so much love. I mean, so much hate and anger and, you know, emotion towards my dad. But now, even with all the stuff that we got, I love him. I love that man for sure.
He's just a man.
Because he's just a man. And I realize that now because I'm a woman. And I've grown up and I'm like, you know what? I can see how some stuff could mess you up. You know? But in that, knowing that doesn't, I don't hold our relationship, I don't equate that anymore. You know what I'm saying? I can
feel the pressure off.
I can separate the two now. Right. You know, the trauma and the things that I've accrued with my dad, that's just that. And I have things that I do that, you know, help heal that and fix those things there. But the relationships that I hold with other men are totally different. And I just have to accept that. Now, that might be different for other people, don't get me wrong, but for me, because I have trauma in that sense, I've decided to separate the two in order to give me full power and range in my dating life. So that's just another little, you know, tidbit. But yeah, besties, I'm so glad y'all came to see your girls again. Anything else else you want to say, Bestie?
That's it. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe,
Yes.
leave a comment, y'all. Give us some feedback. Let us know if you can relate in any way. Follow us on Instagram, Bestie Let's Talk Podcast _ and
on TikTok as well. Bestie Let's Talk Podcast _
More content coming soon.
For sure. We love y'all.
Stay tuned.
Bye.